When it comes to concrete steps, concrete action needs to be done immediately that would have the biggest impact when it comes to long-term care and the health of our seniors.
Well, now the CCP News gas price update. Enpro predicts the price is going to rise 3 cents really midnight to $1.29.
Three really good recommendations and focuses for us first, and there are some very specific recommendations in the report. There have been all kinds of concerns raised. So first of all, we have to make
security
sure
check
that
verification
and
for the
support and care
It's
that
like a
our
retinal
seniors are getting
scan.
a long-term care.
It's like a retinal scan. You
up
think
to
you could
the
fake that with your hair?
we want it to
fake
be.
that with
So,
your hair.
questions raised like, are all of the long-term residents now vaccinated? And they're not clear on whether that's quite all of them or not. Are all the staff who are looking after them vaccinated? The last report that I saw showed that there were still over 20% of the staff looking after our loved ones in long-term care were not yet vaccinated.
If that's part of your plan, you're fucking stupid, old man.
Making sure that no one is complaining that they're not getting adequate PPE when they're looking after people in long-term care homes. It's the basic standards of care within long-term care that aren't being met. So the number one thing to do would be start monitoring and enforcing what guidelines there are. This is something else we've seen, that the enforcement of what standards they are. We think the standards should be stronger, but even the ones they aren't in place now. So how do we begin by making sure that what is in law now is being followed, and then begin immediately to make sure the things we can affect now happen immediately, and that's the training, the supplies, the staffing that can be done immediately.
Just finally, Bill, are you concerned now that this report has been tabled and it looks like the worst, thankfully, is behind us when it comes to the pandemic and long-term care? Obviously, the deaths, the death toll, and the numbers have been dropping thanks to the vaccine arriving, and we got it to our seniors immediately.
What the fuck is this guy talking about?
Are you concerned, though, that a lot of people are going to turn the page on the long-term care, and we could be having this discussion again this time next year, that the concrete action steps won't be taken?
Yeah, very, very good point, Jeff. We are afraid of that people are now focusing on vaccines and other issues, and the long-term care situation is being forgotten again. We can't let that happen again. It's happened a number of times in the past when there have been firefights that have happened. It's hit the headlines. It has become important to politicians, and then it's gone off the table again, and it's got to be dealt with now. It's not easily done. We're not suggesting in any way that fixing this problem is easy, but they've got to start somewhere, and they've got to take action now, and that isn't promising millions of dollars in the future. That's doing things today that are going to affect those people who are in long-term care. Because, if you're 75 or 80 years old and you're told they're going to fix things within the next 5 years, that's not much consolation to you, because 75 and 85-year-olds don't necessarily look ahead with confidence for 5 or 10 years.
Absolutely. And I say this every time we talk to you or talk about the long-term care, things have got to change. Status quo just simply isn't good enough. Bill, thanks as always. Really appreciate the time with us this afternoon.
Thank you very much for calling.
You bet. Bill Van Gorder is the Chief Operating Officer with CARP, the Canadian Association of Retired Persons, as we head back out of the roads for another check of 640 Toronto traffic.
If you're heading out of downtown this afternoon, we've got some new problems on the Don Valley Parkway northbound at Don Mills. Crash in the right lane. It's back up to about Baby Bloor. Now, some good news on the 401 eastbound ramp to Eglinton. That flooding, that has been all cleaned up. MTO crews have since left them. Back to business as usual on that ramp. On the Queen Elizabeth Way, Toronto bound at Nikola Tesla stalled vehicle, that has been removed. Now, in Mississauga, we do have big problems. Aaron Mills is closed both ways north of Eglinton. That's between Britannia and Thomas. That's all because of a crash with some down hydro wires in the area. Canadian Tire's Big Spring Tire Sale is on now. Save up to 25% off trusted brands like Motomaster, Michelin, and Goodyear. Ends April 29th. Conditions apply. Details online. I'm Lori Turkov with Global News Radio 640 Toronto Chopper Traffic. Spring cleaning is when homes get a new twinkle in their eye,
a new spring in their step,
and new color in their cheeks.
Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK. We'll be there before you hang up the phone.
When that shiny truck from 1-800-GOT-JUNK arrives at your house,
It's a sign of a new beginning,
a clean start.
a breath of fresh air.
When your home feels clean and happy,
The people inside feel clean and happy too.
you make junk disappear.
All you have to do is point.
Call 1-800.
Keep saying democracy. Oh, it's 88.9. How did I get to 88.9? What the fuck's going on here?
पार्टिसिपेट किया ते अपनी बड़ी
une image. En fait, c'est comme traiter une migraine dans un raid.
This is how the world is. Philips Magnavox. Okay. The preset system will not stay in order no matter what. Why? Because the stations aren't exactly in order when you save them in the order you want them in. So no matter what you do, it will not count in order. I don't think you understand what I mean. It'll skip back from 40 to 32, 33, 34, 35 on the way back up. Useless. Fucking useless. Multi-billion-dollar company. Figured nobody ever uses this goddamn feature.
L'aspect qui m'a le plus fasciné dans ce livre-là, dans son écriture comme telle.
And the radio's 20 plus years old, so what the fuck am I going to complain to?
Il les vit ces épisodes-là, et celui-là en particulier, ça doit.
Sports.
Another national day of mourning forced to go virtual as the COVID-19 pandemic also shifts the way we view on-the-job risk.
Today is Guide Dog Day. They won't mention it. They're going to mention over and over and over the thing for the workers. Because they see themselves as somehow they're going to benefit from it, but they're looking down at workers that work in places that are dangerous. WSIB fucks everybody. They won't mention the CNIB. CNIB, everybody that's a part of CNIB listen to 680 News. Everybody that's part of WSIB, they weren't listening to 680 News when they were working.
Les secousses là après.
Lisa Habs tonight from Montreal. Jack Campbell.
Back because Canada has sadly recorded its first death related to the AstraZeneca vaccine. It's a 54-year-old woman in Quebec.
And she was about to get the vaccine, and another 54-year-old woman ran up and drop kicked her and shot her in the head and said, "That's my vaccine, bitch," and took it, jammed it in her own arm.
Normal blood clot that we see with AstraZeneca.
Blood clot.
It's 1 in 100,000. So she hit a very unfortunate jackpot. And
Hold on. 1 in 100,000. That means there shouldn't be 3. There should be 30 of these fucking things. There should be 30 of these fucking things. Somebody double check the numbers, please. But I'm pretty sure that means there shouldn't have been 3 of these incidents and 1 fatal. There should have been 30.
And the answer is no. Neither does a family history predict it. Neither does being on birth control pill predict it.
You know what would? Testing people for that rare blood condition.
Normally our platelets...
Oh, we don't have to, because that's only niggers, and they don't feel pain, and they're disposable.
Platelets drop in number and then clot abnormally, blocking important blood vessels. And when that happens in the brain, it causes headache, and
blood-brain barrier, and besides, that's called a stroke.
With seizures, sometimes a lot.
Seizure rolls? What's a seizure roll? Tell me what a seizure roll is.
Often only 4 days to 20 days after getting the vaccine. But it is important to keep on the lookout, although its numbers are around 1 in 100,000. In other words, you're more likely to get struck by lightning and die than have this from the AstraZeneca vaccine. We know it's
and die.
Outweigh its risks.
Okay. She's over exaggerating. She's using too many qualifiers. They don't say you're more likely to get hit by lightning and die. No, they don't. They say you're more likely to get hit by lightning, because that's a statistical thing. There are people that have been hit by lightning half a dozen times and didn't die. They don't say it that way because it's not how the statistics are kept. You're over-exaggerating. You're using too many qualifiers. It's the biggest, most important, biggest. Yeah, see, too many.
Turn the tide here in Canada.
Canada. How much McDonald's did you eat today, you fucking pig?
Which could make a huge difference. And now the U.S. has said once the FDA has approved the vaccines, they will be releasing some 60 million vaccine doses to the world supply. Now, how much is going to come to Canada? We really don't know. And when that will come to Canada, we really do not know. We don't have any idea. But the fact that it could make a tremendous difference is very exciting. We know that it gives actually very good immunity after a single dose. The immunity is probably in the 80% range.
No, it's in the C probably.
After getting just one dose, so getting it into as many arms as possible matters a lot. Right now, Canada is lagging behind. Only about 30% of Canadians have received a single dose of the vaccine. And that's in contrast to, say, Israel, where Israel is about double. And not only that, most of them have received.
I have to like the fucking place. At least I can pronounce what they called it.
Is brought to you by Audi Mississauga Airport. We have 2 new problems on the eastbound 401. Just had a call from a traffic spotter east of Winston Churchill. The left lane is now blocked. We have a spun out vehicle there, so it's getting jammed up on the eastbound 401 from the 407 to east of Winston Churchill. The other problem is on the ramp to the northbound 427. The left lane blocked with a collision. Emergency crews are on this scene. So it's still going now, eastbound 401 as you approach the 427 in the collectors. After that, a bit of a slowdown from Kipling to the 400 in the express. Last we heard from traffic spotters on the westbound 403 west of Waterdown Road. Still have the right lane blocked because of a collision with a vehicle in the ditch as well. It is jam-packed on the westbound 403 from the QEW to west of Waterdown Road. Northbound on the 427, a heavy backup at the top end from the 407 onto the Highway 7 ramp. Still have the 427 closed from Highway 7 to Zenway for long-term construction. Northbound on the Don Valley Parkway, that problem north of Don Mills has cleared, and not really seeing any delays right now on the northbound DVP. It looks to be a pretty decent drive right now from the Gardner up to the 401. On city streets in Mississippi.
By the way, the 1 in 100,000, it's 1 in 40,000. You're not more likely to get hit by lightning. The odds of getting hit by lightning are not 1 in 40,000. Or every day somebody get hit by fucking lightning in your neighborhood, eh?
Book yours or shop online at audimississauga.com.
I don't remember what the exact numbers are, but it's not 40,000.
Cloudy for most of the GTA, but a few breaks of sun are possible this afternoon, helping us warm up to that guaranteed high of 15. Some showers cannot be ruled out, but most of the rain will stay in the Niagara region this afternoon. And then we'll drop down to a low of 8 degrees with a chance of showers tonight. For tomorrow, 12 is the high, and we'll have rain showers to deal with in the afternoon and evening, down to 6 degrees. And then Friday, a high of 9, chance for a few showers, and it will be noticeably cooler, and we will have the chance for a little bit of sun during the day as well, and then brighter on Saturday with temperatures around 12 degrees. Our guaranteed high today, 15.
Right now in downtown, it's overcast, 9 degrees, overcast at 11. Out of Pearson, 680 news time, 1:53.
When your bank account does more, your money does more, so you can live more too. Switch to the Scotiabank Ultimate Package and get a savings rate of up to 1.8%.
False negatives, at least with a false positive. If a worker tests positive, they go home, get that gold standard. No harm done. It's much worse.
Fail safe open or fail safe closed.
Into a workplace.
Yeah, the problem with this testing is more in the false positives. People being picked up and told they have the disease when in fact they do not have the disease.
She just said the exact opposite.
I mean, we still need to have it because the problem with COVID-19.
There's a huge problem because they don't have the disease, really. So what's going to happen if they quarantine? They'll magically develop it?
So in other words, they're shedding tons of virus before they know they're sick, and usually that's 4 days. So consider 40% of adults with COVID-19 have no symptoms, ever. And then you look at kids, 50% of kids have no symptoms, ever. So that's a big problem. That's been a huge challenge. And that's where rapid testing has its best utilization. So if somebody has symptoms, well, they're supposed to get tested and supposed to stay home already.
Yeah, this is like the security check, the DNA test. You can't fake this here. It's not simple curls either.
In high congregate settings, essential workers. And what happens is, so what? So what if we're wrong? You know, you find maybe 1 out of 10 or 15 people who have it, you send them home. It's a lot better than that whole business getting shut down, which is what is going to have to happen in order to get in control of this third wave.
You bet. Dr. Iris Gorfinkel, vaccine researcher, with us each and every Wednesday. Dr. Gorfinkel, appreciate it as always. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Many thanks, Jeff. Always a pleasure.
Likewise. We'll get a break, and a news update to 2 o'clock is straight ahead. 640 Toronto.
Above 7 degrees Celsius, your winter tires wear faster and get noisy on
So
the
get your airbags checked at Toyota.
From winter to Toyota recommended all-season tires.
The Toyota Benz side airbag, supposedly the wiring will become damaged by normal use, and they won't deploy. Which I'm not sure which is worse, not deploying when you need them to, or just deploying out of the blue for no reason.
Time 1:56.
Now the 680 News Business Report. Here's Chris McCusker. Well, Sarah, record high on the S&P already today, with just minutes to go now before the U.S. Federal Reserve announcement. And then we're also going to get a speech from the U.S. President tonight. So the S&P right now
we're going to get a speech from the U.S. I don't think he's addressing us specifically,
NASDAQ off by 23. Derek Holt is Vice President and Head of Capital Markets Economics at Scotiabank.
I think so. I think the smartest thing for the Fed now, after having just updated all of its forecasts and guidance at the last meeting, is to shift to the sidelines and just wait for the data to come in now. The next payrolls report a week from Friday, and monitor inflation risk over the summer. I think things will heat up, and we'll hear more talk of the Fed backing away from its bond purchases and some of its stimulus in the second half of the year. But right now, I think the smartest thing to do is just to watch the data.
Okay, some stocks of note in the U.S. today. Shares in Microsoft await on Wall Street. That stock actually getting very close to a 3-week low. Right now, it's down by about 3%. The software maker failed to deliver blockbuster earnings as was expected. Shares in Texas Instruments right now down by about 4%. Some analysts say its latest sales forecast is weak. And then shares in Alphabet, this is the parent company of Google, up by about 4%. This stock hit an all-time high today. Earnings coming in better than expected on a spike in ad sales related to retail and travel. And yes, it seems many of us are thinking or considering or searching about a post-pandemic world. Bay Street today coming within 10 points of its all-time high, and it's still the best performer in North America. Right now, it's up by 178 points, 19,353. So that is a gain of close to 1%. Gold is down $5, 17.73. Oil is up by $1.08, 64.02. The latest supply report in the U.S. did show a build last week of 90,000 barrels. That was less than expected. And then the Canadian dollar today has been close to a 6-week high. Right now, it's up by 1/3 of a cent, sitting at 81 cents U.S. The latest retail sales data in Canada for February did come in better than expected. I'm Chris McCusker. This is 680 News.
We all know family and friends have been recommending Capital Direct for years, and now with the advent of FlexiLine or a traditional equity loan, your options are even better. Compared to the banks these days, Capital Direct's lending criteria are less strict. Whether you could use $50,000 or $1.5 million, your money could be in your bank account within days. Rates are near record lows, so call Capital Direct today at 1-800-NEW-CAPITAL to see what's available for you.
CA. Mazda wants you to discover the drive. Discover why Mazda 3 is the Automobile Journalists Association of Canada's 2021 Canadian Car of the Year. Discover performance with an available turbocharged engine in the CX-5 or CX-30. And discover luxury with CX-9 sophisticated 7-passenger seating. Right now, receive 0.5% purchase financing on select models and up to a $1,000 Mazda bonus on select new Mazdas. Contact your local Mazda dealer or visit Mazda.ca for details.
Taking a look at some regional weather conditions in Niagara Falls right now. Mostly cloudy, 11 degrees. Hamilton, mix of sun and cloud, 9 degrees there. Cloudy and 12 in Pickering. In Milton, some light rain and 10 degrees. Right now in downtown Toronto, it's cloudy and 9. The News Watch never stops. 680 News is CFTR AM Toronto. It's 2 o'clock.
Toronto's #1 for breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is 680 News. Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, the 28th of April. I'm Steve Roberts.
And I'm Sarah Parrott. Here's what's making news this hour.
The province creates an emergency order which will allow patients who no longer need hospital care to be transferred to long-term care homes without their consent.
The province's Auditor General out with a report on the Ford government's handling of the outbreak in long-term care. She says the sector was not sufficiently prepared for COVID-19.
Ontario has now seen 4 days in a row with fewer than 4,000 COVID-19 cases and a drop in the positivity rate, but one hotspot is still burning bright.
And we are standing by to go live to the City of Toronto's COVID briefing. We will take it there as soon as it gets underway.
The Blue Jays might have a new leadoff man tonight against the Washington Nationals, and the Leafs travel to Montreal. Sports at 15.
No change in interest rates in the U.S. The S&P had already hit an all-time high today, and Bay Street gets close to an all-time high. Business.
Today, the city does it at 2 o'clock.
City News Time, 2:01.
All right, now time for traffic and weather together on the ones. Here's Carrie Prunskis.
This report is brought to you by AGM Renovations. Ongoing problems
Well,
on
I
a
have two choices.
number
I can
of
sit
routes.
through this whole report
oh
without a coffee, or I can miss 5 minutes of it or so.
Vehicle here, so a heavy backup eastbound 401 from Trafalgar to east of Winston Churchill. Then eastbound 401 on the ramp to the northbound 427. The left lane is blocked with a collision, so it gets busy approaching the 427 and the collectors. Watch out for a stalled vehicle westbound on the 401 approaching Avenue Road in the Express. It's blocking the left lane, getting busy westbound 401 from Yonge to Avenue in the Express lanes. Then it's jammed up into Mississauga from Mavis in the Express to approaching Winston Churchill. Westbound on the 403 west of Waterdown Road, 2 left lanes are blocked. We have another collision there. So a really heavy backup here westbound 403. It's barely moving from right off the QEW in Burlington to west of Waterdown Road. We also have construction southbound 427. It's on the express ramp to the QEW, blocking the right lane. A bit of a delay from Dundas in the Express. And on city streets, traffic spotters say the intersection of Erin Mills and Thomas, that's still blocked off in all directions because of a collision. And we still have a closure in Vaughan. Dufferin is shut down in both directions from Major Mackenzie to Teston for a police investigation. How about the money you save staying at home you spend on your home? Increase your living space. Finish your basement. Call AGM now and get $5,000 off your new basement. Visit agmrenovations.com. Now with the forecast, here's Carl Lamb.
We will have more rain showers throughout the afternoon and into the evening as well, possibly a rumble of thunder here and there, but temperatures head up to a guaranteed high of 15, and we'll head down to 8 degrees tonight with still the chance for a few showers across the GTA.
I think all the little old ladies going, well, got vaccinated, did not die, no blood clots, but they keep saying the lightning's more likely. You can imagine all them little old ladies got a metal walker or a metal buggy or a metal cane thinking maybe I shouldn't go out there and push my luck.
Long-term care bed to a nursing home without necessarily needing consent.
680's Momin Qureshi joins us live with more on what the health minister had to say today. Momin?
Sarah, this move is being made to try to free up some space and hospital beds for incoming potential COVID patients with severe issues that we've seen as we continue to go through this third wave. Health Minister Christine Elliott says what would happen is patients who maybe don't need hospital care anymore but are using a bed would be transferred out of hospitals to long-term care homes, maybe even without their consent.
This temporary emergency order will provide hospitals with the flexibility to transfer certain patients, those whose doctors have determined no longer require hospital care and could be better supported in a more appropriate setting, to a long-term care or retirement home. This would be done in only the most urgent of situations, when a hospital is at risk of becoming overwhelmed.
Now, Elliot says when it comes to the consent issue, she says the goal is to have conversations with those patients, collective conversations with their doctors and other people to try to get consent to move them. But she says, yes, it is possible in the rarest of situations, according to her, that it could be without consent. Reporting live, I'm only correct.
The rarest situation.
All right, happening right now. Let's go live to the city of Toronto for their COVID briefing.
/COVID-19. Starting tomorrow, child care workers in licensed child care settings will also be eligible to book an appointment at a city-operated clinic through the provincial booking call center at
They haven't been eligible? I never thought about that.
1-833-943-3900. As this month comes to an end, we know that next month will bring a lot more vaccine doses, and we will run in a situation out of the valley that we're currently in. This will allow us to ramp up the capacity we have in Team Toronto. We've had that capacity in place for some time to get more shots in more arms. All we needed was more supply. To all the people who are eager to get vaccinated but not yet eligible, please know that day will come soon as supply increases and we're able to get through the initial groups established by the province. This morning, we announced that the city is partnering with Vaccine Hunters Canada to assist Toronto residents in identifying available next-day appointments at the city-run immunization clinics. Getting everyone vaccinated is a huge all-hands-on-deck effort, and Vaccine Hunters have stepped up to help people get vaccinated and to navigate the different registration systems. I want to thank Councillor Cressy and city staff for working with Vaccine Hunters to find a way we can share information on available appointments in city-run clinics. It is a volunteer organization, Vaccine Hunters that is doing great work. They're exactly the type of group an innovative government and city should partner with to benefit our residents. We're excited to work with Vaccine Hunters to help get more people vaccinated. Last year, in the midst of the first wave of COVID-19, I asked our Senior Services and Long-Term Care Division to report on the actions taken to protect the residents of the city's 10 long-term care homes, and what action was needed to be taken right away to further protect residents and our workers from the pandemic. They prepared a very complete report in response, which was made public. Now we have a new follow-up report, which I also requested, and we are making it public today. The second report summarizes the actions that the city government has taken to protect the health and safety and well-being of the 2,600 plus residents and the 3,300 plus staff in city-operated long-term care residences during the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. In delivering the report, Senior Services General Manager Paul Ravdis also confirmed that although our city long-term care residences have faced challenges, as of April 7th, 2021, 97% of long-term care residents in our care, 81% of staff members, and 77% of essential caregivers have been vaccinated. And we are continuing to plan for the new normal in the city's 10 directly operated long-term care residences. The long-term care sector as a whole has experienced extreme challenges and tragedy throughout this pandemic. And while they generally met these challenges fairly well, the city's 10 directly operated residents were not immune. The difference, however, is
Extended care nursing home fire
by collaborating with colleagues throughout the Toronto Public Service, building strong relationships with health system partners to care for our residents. While every resident death is a tragic loss and a single death is one too many, the report notes that the city's long-term care homes have fared better in the second wave relative to the first wave, with fewer cases in our homes and less loss of life. Senior Services has continued with enhanced efforts following the first wave of the pandemic, which included increasing staffing capacity, infection protection and control training, enhanced cleaning and PPE use, and the creation of isolation rooms in all resident home areas, so as to significantly improve outcomes for residents during the pandemic's later stages after the first one. We know from our experience over the last year that proactive testing, enhanced screening, including rapid testing, and vaccine prioritization for long-term care residents, essential caregivers, and staff members have worked together to lower positivity rates and result in fewer COVID-19 deaths in city directly operated long-term care residences, the 10 of them.
So just remember, me being forced to share a room, the one double room on the psych ward, even though they knew I was staying there indefinitely, I had to share a room with a different fucking psychopath somebody who's just coming off meth or whatever every fucking day, even though they knew that person wasn't staying, but I was. And that's acceptable when you're treating niggers and redskins, right? You're all gonna fucking die, eh? You're all gonna die!
Fully implemented, with the remaining 2 well in hand. This followed my intention in asking for these reports, which was not to wait until the pandemic is over, but to identify and implement changes that were needed as soon as possible. This report includes 9 further internal recommendations, including the establishment of isolation rooms in all resident home areas with shared rooms, and continuing to monitor infection prevention and control measures, training, auditing, and sharing performance results with staff. We will work to make sure these new recommendations are implemented. The report is clear that our long-term care homes worked quickly to protect residents as the second wave struck. It states, and I quote, "By rapidly mobilizing all available resources to implement robust staffing supports, enhanced infection control and testing measures, resident and family support, communications, and most recently a smooth and efficient vaccine rollout, Senior Services has had success responding to the uncertain and evolving nature of the pandemic while prioritizing the safety and well-being of staff and residents," close quote. It also notes that protecting our long-term care residences came with a financial cost. Operating expenses were $32 million higher than planned. The majority of these costs were offset by provincial funding we worked to secure, although there were additional city funds involved as well. Regardless of where the funds came from, these were investments which simply had to be made, as seen from any perspective whatsoever. These are senior residents, some of our most vulnerable residents in the city who were in our care, and we had to make these investments to ensure that they were properly cared for. These investments provided for enhanced staffing levels, purchasing additional PPE, and enhanced cleaning protocols, among other things. And it shows the importance of moving quickly and working together to make those investments. And I can assure people out there, many families and others who are concerned with this report, the second one that's being made public today, will not be the last one. I know as we face the third wave right now, staff will report back, as I have requested, on additional lessons learned in combating this wave and combating the variants of concern. I want to thank all of the residents in our long-term care homes who have been vaccinated to protect themselves, as well as their fellow residents, their families, and our staff members who have done so as well. And I want to be clear that we, your City of Toronto government, remain absolutely committed to making sure that the city's long-term care residences continue to lead the way in responding to the pandemic, and at all times, pandemic or not, keeping the residents safe and well cared for. We know at some point we'll be able to reopen again, and we want to make sure that we are doing everything as a city to help businesses when they can safely welcome customers once again. Following very careful consideration of the impact that the pandemic has had on the restaurant and bar industry in particular, and in consultation with Toronto Public Health, I'm confirming today that the installation of the Cafe TO locations in curb lanes will begin as planned, starting on May the 8th. That work will take about 3 weeks to complete in all of the various neighborhoods, and we didn't want to wait until public health measures had changed. We want to be ready. This will ensure that when public health orders permit, restaurant and bar operators will be ready to maximize the patio season, and there will be no delay in getting the Cafe TO installations up and running. As long as outdoor dining is prohibited in Toronto, cafe operators will be required to ensure that these curb lane closure areas are not used for congregation or for public seating or for dining purposes. I know they would rather have the Cafe TO infrastructure there and ready to go than to wait, even though they can't use it right now. This will ensure that as soon as it is safe to do so, restaurant and bar operators will have this expanded space immediately available to them to help customers and employees keep physical distance, and of course to generate revenue they desperately need as a result of the long winter that they've experienced. Our restaurants continue to sacrifice a great deal in order to follow the necessary and effective life-saving measures that have been put into place to keep our families and our neighbors and our communities safe. There is tremendous demand for the second year of Cafe TO because a lot of them need the additional revenue opportunity to recover. I can tell you that from just the first registration window, city staff are reviewing 720 curb lane cafes and 71 public parklets for expanded dining space. Already, more than 311 sidewalk cafes are already approved citywide. I know it's exciting to think about outdoor dining again. The fastest way we can get to that day that we can enjoy a meal and a drink on a patio at our favorite restaurant or bar is to follow public health advice right now. We need to stop the spread of COVID-19 now. The best way we can help our restaurants and other businesses, our friends and our neighbors, yes, is to shop local and do takeout and things like that, but to support these people in the best way we can, whose livelihoods depend on a safe reopening, and is by everyone working hard now to follow public health guidance and to get vaccinated as soon as possible. We do know, and this is an encouraging thing, that citywide traffic volumes marginally decreased last week as new restrictions were added to the existing stay-at-home order. City staff saw a more than noticeable drop in citywide congestion, which is now comparable, the congestion levels are, to conditions during the lockdown earlier this year prior to the reopening of schools. So this all will make a difference, but it will take time. We will start to see a difference in the case numbers and in some of the rates of hospitalization and admittance to the ICU, but things need to go in the right direction. And I want to say thank you for the things you are doing now to help start to make that happen. Doing the right thing, following the public health advice, it will help us to get through this. I'd now like to ask Dr. Davila to present her report for today.
Thank you, Mayor Tory, and good afternoon. Today, I am reporting 1,055 new cases of COVID-19. 1,121 people are in the hospital. 242 people are in the ICU. And I was saddened to report 13 deaths today. Yesterday, I read some figures from Our World in Data, a research and data analysis center partnered with the University of Oxford. It listed Canada as having 30% of the population with at least one dose of vaccine. Only 8 other countries in the world were ahead of us, and 3 of those are the United Kingdom, the United States, and Israel, whose vaccination progress is the envy of the world. Here in Toronto, we are seeing success in targeting the vaccine where it will produce the most effect under the current circumstances. It sometimes feels contradictory to speak to our success in the delivery of vaccinations when there are still so many waiting their turn, and while the third wave is still so dangerous. That danger is why the approach we are taking makes the most effective use of the vaccine supply at our disposal. Toronto Public Health, our hospital partners, and our community partners are all collaborating to deliver the doses we have to best advantage. We are confident that the current Hotspot Strategy delivers a double advantage. The strategy not only targets the neighborhoods and demographics that are at greatest risk of infection, but also indirectly reaches into workplaces where it can be easy for COVID-19 to spread, as we know these neighborhoods are often home to essential and frontline workers. In addition to the Hotspot Strategy, our hospital partners have conducted 2 pilot workplace vaccination campaigns in Toronto. We are actively working with our vaccination partners to review these pilots, and together we'll make decisions on next steps when we have more vaccine supply. While we often speak of neighborhoods at greatest risk, we are well aware these are not the only places facing risk. Everyone in Toronto has shared fear, disruption, and risk from COVID-19, even if we often experience these things in different ways. As a matter of public health, we need and want everyone in Toronto, wherever you live, to be vaccinated against COVID-19. There is almost nowhere in the world that does not share the same need that we have to acquire sufficient vaccine. We are now seeing that there are places in the world where the vaccines have been so extensively delivered that the signs of their power over COVID-19 are clear and reassuring. In the United Kingdom, the government is proceeding cautiously towards more normal life after months of intense restrictions and intense vaccination. Almost 65% of Britons 18 years of age and older have received a first vaccination. Yet at the same time, the government is under political and popular pressure to move faster and to reduce restrictions sooner. This impatience, while understandable, may result in serious consequences. All eyes will be on the UK as it moves ahead to observe which path it follows and what follows from the path it chooses. The same is true of the United States. In the US, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has published information about what vaccinated people can do now, including yesterday's announcement that fully vaccinated people don't need to wear masks outdoors except in crowded settings. Still, the emerging flexibility in American daily life is modest in many states. At the same time, variants, aggressive relaxing of public health measures, and COVID fatigue are factors in a noticeable resurgence in some states and amongst young people who haven't yet had access to vaccine. There are lessons in the experiences of those who are ahead of us in the long march toward a more usual way of living. Each step we take as individuals during this stay-at-home order will determine whether we will outpace the risk of COVID-19 or if COVID-19 will outpace us. This is in effect like walking a tightrope. A tightrope walker was quoted as saying that the most dangerous part of the walk was when you have to turn, because that is the only moment when you take your eyes off where you're heading, and that's when you really risk falling. What? If we lose sight of where we are, we could wind up back where we started again. The cautions I raise are to say, always remember that however difficult and unpredictable and frustrating the path can be at points, we are moving in the right direction. And never.
She's again inventing reasons in her head why people aren't doing what she is telling them they must do because she wants them to. None of this makes sense.
Safety. I'll now turn it over to Chief Peg to deliver his.
Good, because you're fucking retarded. And you won't admit it. Just like Olivia Chow, Down syndrome, won't admit it. I could care less if she just admit it.
Is determined by the province of Ontario. Effective 8 a.m. yesterday morning, the province extended vaccine eligibility to those 45 years of age and older who live in hotspot areas. Further, beginning tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., child care workers in licensed child care settings are also eligible to book their appointment for COVID-19 vaccine in any of the city-operated vaccine clinics. Over the course of this week, we are able to vaccinate approximately 46,000 people across our network of city-operated clinics. I'm pleased to report that 10,651 people successfully booked their appointments for vaccine in a city-operated clinic on Monday. Another 21,046 people booked yesterday, and as of 1:45 this afternoon, a further 4,914 people have booked today. As of this morning, there were a few vaccine appointments available for the remainder of this week, and there are still appointments available to be booked during the weeks of May 3rd and May 10th. To summarize, The following groups of people are eligible to book their appointment for COVID-19 vaccine in a city-operated clinic. Anyone who is 60 years of age or older, anyone 45 years of age or older who lives in one of the identified hotspot neighborhoods, anyone who is pregnant, any elementary or secondary education workers who work in a COVID-19 hotspot in Toronto, any elementary or secondary education workers who support students with special education needs, any elementary or secondary education workers who live in a Toronto hotspot, and beginning tomorrow morning, any child care workers who work in licensed child care settings. Residents who are 60 years of age and older, along with residents who are 45 years of age and older and who live in one of the identified hotspot neighborhoods, are able to book their appointment via the provincial online booking system. Those who are pregnant, education workers, and beginning tomorrow, child care workers, are able to book their appointments by calling the provincial call center at 1-833-943-3900. The number of appointments that are made available in city-operated vaccine clinics correspond directly with the number of doses of vaccine that are available to be administered. As vaccine availability begins to increase moving forward, we are both able and ready to expand our clinic operations to match. In closing, I would like to address one important question that has been raised of late. Regardless of where you receive your vaccine, and regardless of which vaccine you receive, there are no costs or fees that you are required to pay. Receiving your COVID-19 vaccine is free for everyone, including receiving your vaccine in a pharmacy or any clinic location. Thank you for all that you do to help stop the spread of COVID-19 in our city. Please continue to monitor toronto.ca/COVID-19 for the most up-to-date information on immunization in Toronto. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. We'll now go to questions. Just a reminder to please unmute yourself. We'll go first to Brian Passenfield from the Toronto Sun. Brian, go ahead, please.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Just a quick question in regards to the Vaccine Hunters partnership. I'm curious as to why the decision was made to frame this as a partnership. When all it seems the city is doing is providing a third-party information on next-day appointments, vaccine appointments, and essentially not paying a group of volunteers who advertise city-run clinics. A lot of people, myself included, owe a debt of gratitude to Vaccine Hunters Canada for the great work they do in helping people navigate what I think we can all agree has been a pretty confusing vaccination rollout. My question is, putting all this spin aside for the moment, is there some sort of sense of embarrassment that this group of volunteers has managed to succeed at something that the city has so far had a bit of a hard time figuring out?
I'll start with that and just say what there is a great sense of pride in the fact that people with volunteers to develop an
Great sense of pride.
And can add to our overall and overriding desire, which is to make it as easy as we can in a complex set of circumstances, not all of them determined by us, about who can get vaccinated and when. I mean, I admit that for people keeping up with all these different rules that are put in place by the province and different clinics operated by ourselves, by the hospitals and others, has been daunting for people to deal with. But our objective, and we've had all kinds of partnerships, and we call them that because that's what they are, people working together in a common cause to get people vaccinated and make it as easy as possible. And I take great pride in the fact that these people are out there, and great pride in the fact that Chief Pegg and the city organization said, let's make sure we work as closely together as possible. So all it's involved is us giving them a roster of available appointments and them making those through their channel known to people, which in turn hopefully makes it easier for people to hook up. To me, this is an entirely good news story. There's not a bad news aspect to it.
You missed the point. You didn't say good or bad, as somebody said.
Question in regards to Councillor Matlow's proposal to prevent drinking in parks that the Economic Committee sent into limbo yesterday. I'd like to get a stance on this, specifically allowing drinking in parks, and how you reacted to the councillor's argument of equity, as you mentioned, only a privileged few in Toronto actually have access to backyards, patios, and villages.
Well, I will just say this. I've been on the record for some time as being favorably disposed to taking a look at these laws so as to consider the notion of people having a glass of wine or a can of beer when they're visiting a park. People are doing this in any event. But right now, we're entirely focused on hospitals that are full because of a terrible pandemic that is overcoming the city. And I think it is something that we will, I'm sure, take a look at in the right way at the right time, and that we'll be doing it in a way that makes sense. But I would point something out that I think is very interesting. In a city of 3 million people, in a year last year which had heavy use of the parks, and there are 1,500 parks across the city.
There were no tickets.
There were a total of 69 tickets issued last year in respective.
Now explain explain to me how 2 black people got tickets for an empty bottle of beer with the cap on it inside of a bag.
So I think that we'll get on to this, and we will deal with it, and we will go forward with public consultation and consultation with our medical and public health experts. But it is one of those things where I think we have our hands full right now just dealing with the things we're dealing with.
I think we'll go next to Mark McAllister from City News. Mark, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. A question for perhaps Chief Pegg to start, but if Dr. Davila or Mayor Tory, if you would like to address it, please do. I guess as the main champion for Team Toronto, the partnership with hospitals and healthcare partners, I wouldn't mind asking you to speak to some more confusion. A flyer was sent out in the M3H hotspot area close to Earl Bales Park, prioritizing specific buildings. Then there was a note from North Europe General on Twitter opening things up to the rest of the postal code to go get a registration card, then to return for an appointment the next day. There are people arguing that that works against those who are disadvantaged and the people that were told that their building was considered a priority. How is this sufficient, or does it cause more confusion yet again?
Hi, good afternoon, Mark. So I'll start by saying I have acknowledged, and all of us have collectively acknowledged, that the rollout and administration of vaccine is very challenging. It is a complicated and complex thing to manage in a city the size of Toronto. But I will say that having said all of that, by and large, from my perspective, that effort has gone well and continues to go well. We, as you know, the City of Toronto operates a network of 9 clinics. Those clinics are all registered solely through the provincial booking system, and that is a decision that we made in partnership with the province going all the way back into January when we were asked to stand up the original proof of concept clinic. Our many community partners, including the Ontario Health teams and hospital partners, each
Remember that one? It's going to be open for 6 weeks. It's going to open for 1 week. We closed it yesterday.
Every day across the city, and each of them are informing the decision that they make with respect to how those clinics are advertised and how those clinics are booked on the basis of the feedback that they receive from the specific neighborhoods and from the community partners who are boots on the ground in those specific locations, who are informing the hospital partners and the OHTs with respect to what they believe will work the best. There is no single answer. There is no single process that is used, because frankly, there is no one solution that meets the needs of everyone across the community. So you've heard me say before, I'm happy to say again, I certainly acknowledge that keeping track of this and staying on top of all of the vaccine rollout across the various networks can certainly be a challenge. I am very appreciative of the patience that everyone continues to demonstrate as this rollout happens. I can assure you that our teams are working nonstop every day, both from an operational and incident management perspective, as well as our consolidated communications tables, who are working together to provide the most accurate information that we can every single day. But this is a complicated and complex challenge. So I will just say that I appreciate all of the work that's happening in all of the clinics across the city. The end result is what matters the most, and that is as many people as possible are being vaccinated against COVID-19 in as rapid.
No, you're wrong. We already knew 3 months ago you can't vaccinate your way out of it. You can't get enough people vaccinated to stop either what you call COVID-19 or all the variants thereof from.
I think the only
They've already come out and admit that. So all the rest of this, look, Look, we're trying. What is this? Is like playing the music on the Titanic, but it's stupid. It's stupid.
There may be learnings along the way.
You need to do what I tell you, because every little bit helps to make me feel better. That your nigger ass will make me sick.
But it's been my
Every single one of these cocksuckers is sick, and not from working with patients.
To learn and improve with each and every clinic as they move forward. And thus far, I think there have been many successes. As there have been, little stumbles and some roadblocks encountered along the way. There have also been many successes, and we're seeing that in the numbers of people that
such as the fact that you cannot mathematically do what you're claiming to be doing. You've already lost
neighborhoods that have had the greatest risk and have had the greatest amount of transmission and hospitalization and impact of
COVID-19. He didn't answer the question about how come you told people they had a spot,
the efforts and the strategies that we've put together as vaccine partners, really starting to see increases in the coverage rate in some of the hardest hit neighborhoods in the city.
I don't think you used the language correctly.
When following up on these little bumps, as you put it, the conversations that are taking place with your healthcare partners, how do you go about assessing the difficulties and the issues at play, such as the case with the example I brought up about a building being prioritized and then finding out that the entire neighborhood around it was getting access before they do? How is it that you take that information, work it out so it won't happen again?
Well, if I can, Mark, I think that the way that that's done is with honesty and candor, and that's certainly how we've conducted ourselves at the table with our vaccination partners.
That pretending to empathize thing? Candor. What are you talking about?
It needs to come towards our vaccination partners. We were in.
Chomo's mad. Chomo's mad. Chomo's mad. Chomo's mad. What are you so mad about, Chomo? Or is it just, again, the fact that I'm on the screen and looking towards it triggers you every fucking time?
The very best we can to get as many vaccines.
12 hours, no hit. Remember that. Your dumbass flips the fuck out 11 hours into a video because I come on screen, dog. It's how pathetic you are.
And we want to do it as quickly.
See, she's a sociopath. You're pathological. It's not the same thing, dog.
All right, thank you. We'll go next to Dave Woodard from Global News Radio 640. Dave, go ahead, please.
Yes, good afternoon. My first question is for Mayor Tory and maybe Dr. Davila as well about the Vaccine Hunter Partnership. What does it say to you about Ontario's vaccine rollout that we have to rely on unpaid volunteers to get the information out?
See, I don't accept the premise of the question. What I would say our mandate is here collectively is to use every
You don't accept the premise of the question. What does it say to you that we're relying on unpaid volunteers? You don't accept the premise of that question.
And so some enterprising people, volunteers, God bless them, put together an app like this that people started to use and providing information about how you can get vaccinated, and we can help them a little bit. Let's look at it that way. We can help them do what they're trying to do, which happens to be exactly the same thing we're trying to do by giving them information on vacant appointments. And they
You should have said, we appreciate all the help we can get.
We're making to get that information out. That's exactly
How's this information out? Buddy, answer the fucking question. Just say thank you, you fucking asshole.
The fact that we're working together
Jesus
because
Christ.
it's all hands on deck here. This is a team effort, and if we work together with people...
So I don't like you pointing out that those people aren't being paid.
We'll get more done.
Doing better than we're doing. Get paid.
And get this nightmare over with.
He refuses to say thanks.
Yeah, the follow-up is for
Refuses to
Dr.
acknowledge.
Davila.
I don't accept the premise of the question that other people are helping because this is all hands on deck. You're a fucking genius, John.
Just for that one there, I want to punch you in your damn face. You're a piece of shit. And I knew you were a piece of shit all the way along, but that was the tops right there, bro.
Might be recommending this in some cases.
In your own field. And in his own field where the interviewer, the radio man is. How the fuck you respond like that?
To get vaccinated to open up spots here in Canada.
So
You need to watch Doomstown. You need to watch Doomstown and see how things go down in this city, John. You're an
This is
idiot.
an opportunity to help free up spots. That's the implication I think that is being made there. But I would say this: there is currently a stay-at-home order in place, and we are encouraging people to abide by that stay-at-home order to the greatest extent possible. We know that the more we move around, the more we have that opportunity to interact with other people, frankly, the more we contribute to COVID-19 spread. Vaccine is coming in, and as you've heard, we are doing our very best with our vaccination partners to use the resources we have available to us to the greatest effect. Right, focusing on those neighborhoods in concert with the science, where we know transmission is greatest and where the benefit of providing that vaccine up front is the greatest, not just for those neighborhoods, but for the city at large. So I would encourage people, absolutely, when your turn comes up, please go access vaccine as quickly as possible. There are many channels through which vaccine is available. The chief spoke to them in his remarks. And know that the vaccine partners here are working their very best. They're working their hardest to make sure that we're getting those vaccines out to people as quickly as possible. And in the meantime, I would ask that people continue to really abide by those self-protection measures you've heard me speak about for so many months now, because those continue to be mainstays of protection as well.
Now you've been listening to the City of Toronto's daily COVID-19 briefing. We'll have the details for you coming up at 3. This is 680 News.
The newest Audi dealer in the GTA, Audi Mississauga Airport, is now open by appointment at the 401 and Dixie Road. Just minutes from the 427, our new facility features multiple showrooms, a state-of-the-art service center, and more. Audi innovation is always moving forward, and we aim to do the same at Audi.
By at least 5% if you miss the deadline on April 30th. So get them filed. You can always get on the phone with CRA and make payment arrangements, but they're much more likely to do that if you've actually filed on time.
No. The payments are due as of a certain date or you owe more. The filing is a separate issue. They want the money you owe them.
It is coming along, and the hope is that it will help a lot of.
Is Ontario's competitive?
So you're only required to file every 3 years, and there's other criteria too. But just out of like, what's the word I'm looking for? In 1998, they came out and told us there were 1,000 people in Canada over the age of 100. There were 100,000 active social insurance numbers for people over the age of 100. It doesn't mean they're all filing tax returns. But they're getting their contributions off the payroll, so they don't give a fuck.
And on the 403 at Waterdown Road, the left lane is blocked all due to a collision, and we recently had a collision clear just west of Waterdown Road, so we still have a heavy backup westbound 403 from just west of the QEW to Waterdown Road. Westbound on the 401, heavy delays into Mississauga, approaching Mavis and the Express, and from west of Mavis and the Collectors to approaching Mississauga Road. Eastbound on the 401 had some earlier problems east of Winston Churchill, so we're still seeing delays eastbound 401 from James Snow Parkway to Trafalgar, and again from Winston Churchill to east of Mississauga Road. A bit busy from east of Kipling to the 400 and the Express. Southbound on the 427 at the bottom of that route on the ramp to the QEW, the right lane is closed, and this is for construction. So a slow drive southbound 427 from Dundas and the Express onto the QEW ramp. Northbound on the Don Valley Parkway, that's filling in from Eglinton to north of Lawrence, but looks like a pretty smooth drive on the northbound 404. If you're getting around on city streets, we have closures in Mississauga. Erin Mills is shut down in both directions from Thomas to Britannia. This is for a collision investigation, some downed wires. So Britannia, that's been closed as well between Glen Erin and Hogan, which is just east of Erin Mills. So delays around these road closures. And in Vaughan, Dufferin is still shut down from Major Mackenzie to Teston. That's for a police investigation, but just minor delays in that area. Earn PC Optimum points exclusively at Esso and mobile stations. Fill your tank, fuel your points at over 2,000 Esso and mobile stations. And now with the forecast, we better get used to the rain, Denise.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is pretty much how we're wrapping up the month of April. Things have started to dry up, though, here in the GTA, and we're even seeing the sun crack through the cloud in spots, which is nice, but temps are still below seasonal, and we are still in contrast to southwestern Ontario, which is sitting in the low 20s right now. We had a few rumbles of thunder in spots. The thunderstorm activity was very isolated, and we still have this chance of showers to kind of creep back in this evening and overnight, and tomorrow is unsettled, Carrie. Yeah, you're right, about 10 to 15 millimeters of rain. Right now it's 12 degrees at Pearson, mostly cloudy, the guaranteed high 15.
Now the Dynamic Funds Market Minute to the Business Center. Here's Richard Southern.
All right, so Jen, a good-looking day at the corner of King and Bay. We got the TSX up 223 points right now, and Shopify playing a big role in that. The Canadian e-commerce company, and with strong earnings, the stock's up 11.5%. On Wall Street, the Dow is lower. It's down 59 points, though the S&P's up 12 and the Nasdaq's up 33. And the Canadian dollar right now higher. It's at 81.14 cents U.S., multi-year high for the loading. At the Business Center, I'm Richard Southern.
Think that investment fees are all that matter? Sometimes the question...
Wait. Asking Dad, can you go out and throw the ball with me? I wish he were here today. I would give him the biggest bear hug.
On April 28th, we remember all those who've suffered a workplace death, injury, or illness. Learn more at wsibdayofmourning.ca.
This is also CNIB Guide Dog Day. Canada is a country that
has quite a history of child labor and so forth, and bad labor laws.
I know somebody who backhoe, an excavator, took off his foot. Now his foot looks like the back end of a dirt bike. He rolls up his pant leg on purpose so you can see it when he's walking around.
$1 million ride.
But he looks after you like Lexus.
So his injury wasn't from serving in the army, but it's sort of interesting because a lot of people come out of the army with prosthetics, and there's always been stigma about gimps or Trippz, meaning somebody with missing a limb, walking funny, all that shit. So even though my buddy did go through the army to have that happen, the fact that he's walking around with his pant leg rolled up helps change the stigma. Or whatever, in theory, anyway. And there was something else I was going to say about that, but I forgot what it was. So, well, I guess you could leave a little comment. Skip the first hour. It's all bullshit, or whatever. I tried. I didn't try. I did. I got into that. So I got a little bit of weed here. Yeah. I got my work done first. I got my coffee and my muffins. Let's see what I can accomplish here. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is such bullshit. Such bullshit. So I had a Facebook application on this box. I made the mistake of hitting the download the update thing. You can't roll it back. Fucked everything up. Got rid of it. Now I got this Facebook Lite thing, and it pops so many notifications. I'm just not used to it because the other one wasn't working correctly at all. Fucking hell. What am I gonna click on here? That's in Chinese right now. Yeah, everything. The schedule changes overnight. I can't fucking remember. Fuck it. Maybe I get 2 little ones out of this, but I don't think I'm hurting that bad.
Know you love niggas, need some milligrams. Sitting with a milli, he be posting it on Instagram. Them dust ass love me, selling quarters out the kilogram. Crumb pie so good, swear I used to pillow pack, baby. Fried chicken, not still gravy. Shaking up the ground like an earthquake and hit.
Please keep interfering with our network connection. That's so disturbing.
We get soft on the truth.
All the way around.
Watch me back in that tail. Drive a hold of that wheel. Out the lottie, I feel. Pop shit burning, eat still.
Can't quite see that dark line there. It's all red.
Supposed to run to his face. Plastic blast of been race. Fuck up in it's too late. Hey. Just push it in, listen, I'm spin rapping vicious, cause to push it to my limits, fucking checks, I'm a hitless while I hit on my business, I'ma get it in a minute, can you feel how I kill shit, to fucking back shit up, can you see my stress, know that life's goal is just a fucking test, only strong survive, gotta be the best, cause I'm complex, none like the rest, not blessed by a curse, so I grew with a smirk, early morning riot verse, hype up like a perk, hope you get it, how it works, play on top, then I verse, cause still paint your shirt, like a night, then we lurk, my songs, what I'm out of control, go berserk, lunge hard where I hurt, so I hit him with my words, trying to steal, reimburse, like Dom, wheels skirt, it dispersed and reversed with these words in the universe. Music top and addiction, I can't begin. The fiction of so you bitching with stitches. I fucking warn your prediction, and all you see is just fiction. My fire burning with friction, your phone shatter reflection. Fucking riding admission, there ain't no lack of restriction. They got me praying religion. I really counted my digits to picture description. Honey, pause ammunition. The top of you with submission. A flexion to a tradition. A turret firing mission. I be popping no pills. Watch me back in that still. Grab a hold of that wheel. Help the lottie, I feel. Pop shit burning, eat still. Chop it, moving that weight. Dancing smells of propane. Exposing one to his fate. Plastic black the thin race. Fuck the finish, you late. Hey, music going in eternities. I got a furnace seed, murder keys, 2 degrees. Dropping like you got disease. I be on you, choke a freeze. Mass by my expertise. Face drop, you look displeased. I got cheese. Fuck a kind of money breeze. On your knees, I take a squeeze. Help 'em wheeze. Push it, gotta pay the fees. Turning up with Hennessy. Burn a ball with the knees. Say fucking enemy. Trying to find a better beat. Pumping only cream of trees. Go. I be baking the cake and the rest of you is forsaking my vibe. Got your face and you catch a feeling. She's shaking the time. Random demonstration. Throw you up inspiration. Planning down for patient. That's all I kept there waiting. Catching down his pain. Pain the games you're playing. Take speeding and laning. No better be no.
I heard a race car. I heard a race car. That's all.
Complaining, I take my rage in the cage and style. Walk you through crazy, the bomb is pushing me blazing. Damn, I feel like a breathe. I smell it with it to thief. I spend an arm retrieves to take it on a leaf. You gotta put the labor to get a chance of the paper to get the houses that you get the paper.
India, Ukraine. Don't think that Ukraine thing is done. Ethiopia, Chad, Ghana,
Cause I'm burning and turning with all lyrical
Pakistan,
learning.
India, China, Afghanistan.
Constantly conserving, striking down, reoccurring. I fucking work from my earnings. Come and hit you deserve it. Cook a whipping and stirring. I fucking hate you right Burman. Cause I was out in the burden. This modern once be observing. Can't you see we alerting? True spreading, confirming. And fucking what I'm the urban. Right in this game of swerving. Cause out the gate I'm returning. I be popping no pills. Watch me back in that seal. Grab a hold of that wheel. Out the lottie, I feel. Pop shit burning, heat still. Chop it, moving that weight. Dancing smells of propane. Exposing one to his fate. Plastic black the fin race. Fuck the finish, you late. Hey, I be popping no pills. Watch me back in that seal. Grab a hold of that wheel. Out the lottie, I feel. Pop shit burning, heat still. Chop it, moving that weight. Dancing smells of propane. Exposing one to his fate. Plastic like a thin race. Fuck the finish, you late. Hey.
I'm having too fucked up. I'm having pothead thoughts. I'm having pothead thoughts. Okay. The second pothead thought was this building here. We could do like a TV show, like Cheers, only be 10, 11 lands. So there was a show called I forget what it's called, Liberty Street, or so. It was based on fucking Liberty Street down there, some shit I think it was. There's enough apartments here. We could have like every day of the year, like we'd start the show zooming in on the apartment number and then show the life of the. Yeah, I know it's dumb. It's dumb. The other pothead thought I'm having, the first pothead thought was all these people talk about what if I get like the first shot of AstraZeneca and the second shot of Pfizer or whatever the fuck. And I'm thinking, if you tried to roll a joint with multiple rolling papers, like a 2 paper, 3 paper, whatever, and you used one brand for one paper and a different brand for the other paper, people would look at you really funny. Like, why? What's wrong with you? Like, just use both the same. They would. You know they were potheads would.
We get sap on the truth. Just do what you do and you love in life. It's all that matters. Fuck them.
Well, I watched it go out. So. Oh. So I got my Spanish-English dictionary. It's a knockoff of Webster's. It's not really Webster's. We got the Spanish S of Fables on here.
Gunshot liquor.
50 drum beating like soca. Out in Trinidad with my boy smoke a coca. Your homie got hit, he was riding like a chauffeur. Planet of the apes, I was plucked like a coca. Come with the straps, went off the shoulder. In the coffin, shutting the lid is giving you closure. You ever get close, something coming out the holster. People ride the train, they're gonna see you on a poster. We poster, but you never talk on what we approach. Get the black go online and now you're doing the most. Go kill him in my yard, nigga, like I could host. Didn't notice they pull guns when you thought you could roast. Just a dose. Know you love niggas need some milligrams. Sitting with a milli, he be posting it on Instagram. Dust says long, you selling quarters out the kilogram. Chrome polish so good, swear I used to Brillo pack, baby. Fried chicken, oxtail gravy, shaking up the Ground like an earthquake in Haiti. Stop trying to rap just like how you niggas don't see me. You can't ain't yourself trying to play me. They said I wasn't sick, but I'm sick though. I give you gangster rap on Calypso. We never stop eating like it's a pit bull. And young boy can't stop squeezing. They got it. We with the hammers. Shorty in the kitchen, chicken like Louisiana. Chillin' like Diana. I go to sleep with a rifle in my pajamas. I was childish, but my Gambino no Atlanta.
Gunshot for your head top. Fit for the grind, nigga. TG.
Man, them niggas that we beefing is so lame. I run with them clips, my gun black and I spit like old bays. Four white boys who let it sing like Coldplay. I sat back and got a flashback on my old ways like blocker. 30 shots up in the fucking chopper. He got shot but shot back and couldn't see the doctor. Nigga bled out, cause nigga how it's better. Remembering the day my
So there's people out there who say the military should be this way and that way. You should be disciplined this way, and you should know this, and you should know that. And when this guy walks by, you got to jump up the truck and do this, and do this, and do this, and do that. And these people aren't running on a proper schedule, blah, blah, blah. And I got sickle cell. I'm not supposed to be working in the sun. Well, how long has this pandemic been technically going on for? And we're still doing what we do. We're going to outlast all these motherfuckers. So my grandfather that came from the Netherlands just after World War II, when he came here, you know, he wouldn't buy anything from South Africa, and he wouldn't eat leftovers. That's the hunger winter. That's a psychological thing from the hunger winter. And they didn't teach their kids Dutch. That's odd, but you guys are putting fucking flame retardants in the product, eh? Like, it's so fucking obvious. It's incredible. This is saving fires, eh? Look at how it's burning all sideways and exploding. That's your fire retardant, you fucking retard. Let's mix fire retardant with the fuel so it won't burn, and that'll make things safer. So, my grandfather that came from the Netherlands was an engineer, among other things, and I don't mean the guy that drives the locomotive. He engineered the control, the instrument panels, the speedometers and shit for locomotives is one thing he did. Another thing he did was maintain medical equipment, you know, like ventilators, heart monitors, whatever the fuck. So this is decades ago, so the equipment was different. And this was brand new shit. Like, we're going to try doing this. Medical shit's always brand new. Like, we're going to try this new thing and that new thing. And you must keep it running, period. Circuit breaker flips, you can't be looking at it going, gee, I wonder what happened. You have to fucking start plugging things in and make it fucking work. My other grandfather lied about his age, and I think his citizenship. He was born in Brooklyn, New York, which is funny because my other grandfather was born in Harlem, North Holland, which is spelled with 2 A's. That's where Harlem in New York got its name from. Also New Hollandia or whatever, which is Hollandia, which is called Australia now, and New Zealand, but that's another story. So my grandfather that was born in New York, when he was 16, lied to join the Canadian Forces and served in Korea as a paratrooper. And because he had a French last name, they sent him off with a bunch of guys who spoke French. I guess this is what Korea, right between World War II, Korea. Somebody checking off things on a piece of paper went, that's French, and fucking sent him off with all the French guys. Because what would the worst thing do? Send the French guy with a bunch of Anglophones that doesn't speak English, right? That'd be, and then him and his buddy Jack, Jim, Grandpa Jim, his buddy Jack were like the last two of their unit to survive, basically. And my grandfather's buried up in Prospect Cemetery here. If I call it Prospect Park, that's a slight mistake because there's a park in New York called Prospect Park. It's Prospect Cemetery, and it's not specifically just for soldiers, but there's a military section in there, and then there's a whole bunch of people that are military or military families that are buried in that cemetery that aren't in the military section. And if you go up in there, there's like artillery pieces and shit. Down in Hamilton, they got the cannons from the 1800s. Down around the exhibition place, they've got the HMCS York. There's fucking, I forget what type, but there's planes and tanks that are set up like they're just parked there permanently, like a statue, like a memorial. So one of the jobs that my grandfather from New York had in the Army, there was a forest fire, someone way the fuck up north, out west in Canada. I forget the exact place now. That wasn't the important part of the story. but they had pumps, gigantic pumps, and they would have run on a diesel engine or some shit, or maybe gasoline. That's not the fucking point. He said what his job was to make sure the pump was right. He could do whatever he wanted, but every 6 hours he must check the pump and make sure it's running. Okay, so it's not, oh, get up at 6, work for 12 hours, go to sleep, or 9 to 5, or left foot, right foot, left foot, right. That's not what it was. The pump must run. Every 6 hours, that pump must be running. If 2 minutes later, when you turned your back, it stopped running, but you showed up 5 hours and change later and got it running again, that'd be fine, because that's what the job was. Because there's pumps all up and down this lake pumping water to kill off some forest fire. It's an army job. In Canada, one of the things they teach in training is forestry. And my grandparents, I'm gonna keep pressing the buttons till it stops doing that. Yep. Every time you think I'm pressing the button, it should lock up, Chomo. See that 3 times in a row? It locked up when I reached. No, you didn't see that. I did. So my grandparents would be pissed at you people for acting this fucking way. This is so deadly. Yeah, keep it up, Chomo. This is so deadly simple. You can explain how viruses work and all that shit in little animations on the TV screen. You can give verbal explanations over the radio, and everybody would understand what the fuck's happening. What's happening?